She left it on the nightstand. Not in anger. Not during a fight. Just left it there. I came home late from work, briefcase still clutched in my hand, when I saw it glinting under the soft yellow lamp beside her side of the bed. Her wedding ring. Clean. Polished. Set neatly atop a folded note card like a museum display. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe she'd taken it off to moisturize, or maybe it was being resized, something innocuous. But I knew better. You don't leave something like that out unless you want it to be seen. And she wanted me to see it. The note underneath was 2 lines long, written in her handwriting, the same looping cursive she used on our Christmas cards. I need to feel free for a while. Please understand. That was it. Not I'm leaving you. Not I'm sorry. Just a sentence that didn't tell me much, but somehow managed to gut me all the same. I stood there in my work clothes, shoulders still stiff from the day, and stared at that ring like it might explain something if I just looked long enough. I sat on the edge of the bed, letting my briefcase fall to the floor with a dull thud. I don't know how long I stayed like that, but the sun had set by the time I got up again. Freedom. That's what she wanted. But what did that mean for me? We'd been married 12 years. Long enough for routines to fossilize into traditions. Saturday morning pancakes. Tuesday night wine and Netflix. That one trip to Vermont every fall, where we'd fight over the temperature setting in the car and then laugh about it over cider. We were steady, reliable, predictable, even. And I thought that was the point. I thought being each other's constant in a world full of chaos was the goal. But somewhere along the way, she stopped wanting stability. She wanted spontaneity. Fireworks. Space. Freedom. I didn't see it at first. The signs were subtle, like fog slowly rolling in until you can't see the road anymore. The late-night walks she took alone. The way she stopped waiting for me to get home before eating dinner. How her phone, once left charging on the kitchen counter, now lived in her back pocket. Always face down when she set it on a table. There wasn't another man. At least, I don't think there was. If there had been, maybe this would hurt differently, sharper, angrier. But this was more like drowning in slow motion. She hadn't run off. She hadn't even moved out. She just took off her ring. And every day after that, she left it on the nightstand. Like a quiet protest I couldn't respond to. I tried to talk to her, of course. I wasn't passive. I wasn't oblivious. I brought it up the next evening while we stood brushing our teeth. Your ring, I said casually, like I was commenting on the weather. You forgot to put it back on. She looked at me in the mirror. Not directly, just the reflection of me over her shoulder. No, she said, spitting into the sink. I didn't forget. I waited, toothbrush still hanging in my mouth, hoping she'd elaborate. She didn't. She just rinsed, wiped her face, and left the bathroom. That night, we lay in bed, inches apart, but separated by a silence miles wide. I turned to face her. Help me understand, I whispered. Please. She didn't move. Her voice came soft, but steady. I need to know who I am when I'm not someone's wife. My throat tightened. You're my wife. I know, she said. And I love you. I need space to feel like me again. Not US. Just me. Her words were careful, curated, like she'd rehearsed them. And maybe she had. I didn't know what to say. What do you say to the woman who still sleeps in your bed, still eats dinner across from you, but has decided to remove the only symbol that binds you together? Weeks passed. She kept the ring off. She didn't pack her bags. She didn't file for divorce. She was still there, but not with me. It was like living with a ghost. She was present but untouchable. And every time I saw that bare finger, something inside me recoiled. Not in anger, in grief. She still smiled sometimes. Still laughed at the TV. Still asked how my day was. But there was a wall between us now. Invisible but impenetrable. And the worst part? I didn't fight back. Maybe I should have. Maybe I should have demanded she wear it again or asked her to move out if she couldn't commit. But I didn't. I just kept hoping it was temporary. That she'd come back. That the ring would one day return to her finger like nothing ever happened. But hope, I've learned, can be crueler than heartbreak. Because hope keeps you standing in the rain long after you should have gone inside. It was a Saturday morning, 6 weeks after she took off the ring, when I found her laughing on the phone in the living room, barefoot in her old college hoodie, like nothing was wrong. I was standing in the hallway, out of view, just listening. Something about that moment shattered the illusion I'd been clinging to. She was fine. She had found her version of freedom, and I was still stuck in the prison of us. That afternoon, I opened the lockbox where I kept our legal documents, house deed, insurance papers, and my will. Her name was right there. Beneficiary, executor, the person I had entrusted with everything if something happened to me. I stared at it for a long time. My handwriting, my signature, my belief that we were forever. But if she could take off the ring to feel free, then maybe I could take off her name to feel sane. So I did. I called my lawyer that Monday. Quietly, carefully, with no anger, no flair. I simply said, I need to update my will. He asked why, and I told him the truth. She took off her ring. I said, so I took off her name. I didn't tell her. Not right away, at least. Changing the will wasn't an act of revenge. It wasn't a power move. It was, in a strange way, self-defense, the emotional kind. A quiet line drawn in the sand, not out of bitterness, but self-preservation. She had removed herself from our marriage in every way but the paperwork. I just made it official on my end. The meeting with my lawyer took less than an hour. We sat across from each other in his office, the same space where we'd once signed our joint estate plan, wide-eyed and giddy, holding hands like the future was something we could carve out of stone. Now, I sat alone, signing forms with a hand that didn't shake. Kevin, my lawyer and friend of 12 years, looked at me over the rim of his glasses. Are you sure? He asked. I nodded. I'm not angry, just tired. He gave a small, understanding nod. You don't have to explain. But I did, in a way. To myself, if no one else. Because this wasn't something I would have ever imagined doing. Removing her from the document that determined everything in the event of my death. That wasn't a small thing. She'd always said the will meant trust, meant legacy, meant we were forever, even in the what if. But forever isn't a promise. It's a decision you have to keep making, day after day. And she had stopped making it. I remember the first time she put that ring on. We were 28, broke, in love, and standing under a string of borrowed fairy lights behind her parents' house. She cried when I slid it onto her finger, cried like she knew what it meant. She used to twist it around when she was nervous. Used to kiss it sometimes when she thought I wasn't looking. Now it just sat there on the nightstand, untouched, unmourned. A relic. I should have seen it sooner, how things were changing. There were moments, 1,000 little ones, that hinted at what was coming. Like how she stopped dreaming out loud with me. How she'd sit in the passenger seat scrolling on her phone instead of singing along to the radio. How she started choosing solo yoga retreats over the hiking trips we used to plan together. I just need to feel like myself again, she kept saying. And I tried. God knows I tried. I supported the retreats. I stayed patient. I gave her space even when that space felt like a cliff edge. But what do you do when the person you built your world with starts peeling herself away, one piece at a time? 2 weeks after the will was changed, we were in the kitchen, making dinner together for the first time in a while. She was slicing zucchini. I was seasoning chicken. A song we both loved came on the speaker. One of those nostalgic, late 2000s tracks that made us both pause. I looked up. She was smiling. Not at me, just smiling. Lost in some memory I wasn't a part of. You seem lighter, I said. She looked at me, surprised. Do I? Yeah. Like someone who's finally figured out how to breathe underwater. She laughed, a little defensively. Is that a compliment or a concern? Maybe both. We didn't say much after that. The kitchen felt too quiet, like a museum of who we used to be. She still hadn't asked about the will. She didn't know, and I didn't offer it up. That was the strangest part. How quickly love becomes secrecy. We used to tell each other everything, even the boring stuff. Now we were both carrying hidden truths like fragile glass we didn't know how to set down without breaking. A few nights later, she asked me if I wanted to go with her to a meditation retreat in upstate New York. I blinked. Together? Yeah, she said, shrugging. It might be good for us. It was the first time in months she'd said us without a wince. Part of me wanted to say yes. God, did I want to. But something had shifted in me. Deeply, quietly, irrevocably. I think you should go, I said. Alone. That's what you've been needing, right? She tilted her head. Why do you sound like you've already decided something I don't know about? I hesitated, then lied. I'm just tired. I need a quiet weekend. She accepted that answer. Maybe because she wanted to. Or maybe because, deep down, she felt the shift too. She left that Friday, duffel bag in hand, ring still on the nightstand. I walked back into the bedroom, stood over the lamplit table, and stared at that ring like it was a symbol in a dream I couldn't quite interpret. That night, I pulled the will out of the lockbox. Read it again. Folded it carefully. And then, for the first time, I placed it under the ring. Let her see it when she gets back, I thought. Let her know. But something happened before she returned. A call. From her sister, Mia. She's okay, Mia said first. But she was in an accident. A deer, or something. The car's totaled. She's at the hospital, minor injuries. They're keeping her overnight for observation. My chest tightened, not with fear, but something else. Guilt. Or maybe recognition. Because when you've just removed someone from your will, and then you get a call like that, your mind doesn't just race. It accuses. I drove to the hospital in silence. Walked through sterile halls under fluorescent lights, a small bouquet in one hand. My heart somewhere back on the bedroom floor. She was lying in bed, reading some paperback she'd brought with her. No makeup. Hair messy. Still beautiful. She looked up and smiled. Hey. Hey. I said, setting the flowers down. How are you feeling? Like I lost a fight with Bambi, she said with a grin. I'm okay. Just sore. There was a pause. I pulled a chair close, sat beside her. Our knees almost touched. She reached out, took my hand, then looked at my ring finger. You'd still want me with you, she said quietly. If something had happened? I didn't respond right away. Then I said it, just above a whisper. Would you want to be with me if nothing had? Her eyes flickered. What do you mean? I hesitated. But I didn't answer. Not yet. She came home, wearing the ring. Just like that. No explanation. No ceremony. It was back on her finger, as if it had never left. As if the weeks of silence, of sleeping beside each other like strangers, had only been a pause in a conversation we were supposed to finish. I noticed it as she walked into the kitchen, her duffel bag still over her shoulder. My eyes went straight to her hand. You put it back on, I said. She didn't look up right away, just nodded while unpacking a bottle of lavender oil and a half-read paperback. I thought a lot while I was up there, she said. About what I want. About who I've been. And I realized I don't want to lose this. Lose you. I should have felt relief. Should have felt some surge of hope. But all I felt was a strange kind of numbness, like hearing someone apologize for a fire after the house has already burned down. I'm glad, I said. And I meant it. But something in my voice must have betrayed me, because she looked up. What? She asked. I pulled the folded copy of the will from the drawer beside the fridge. The one I had left under her ring before the accident. She must have seen it, I thought. But if she hadn't said a word. I placed it gently on the kitchen counter. You saw this, right? Her face went pale. Not in fear, more like realization. I did, she said softly. I didn't know how to bring it up. I didn't do it to hurt you, I said. I did it because you took yourself out of us. Quietly, slowly. I just followed your lead. She sat down across from me. The air between us tightened, like something invisible had been stretched too far and was about to snap. I was scared, she said. I kept waiting to feel something that never came. I thought if I could just breathe on my own again, maybe I'd know if I still wanted this life. Still wanted you. And do you? I asked. Her eyes searched mine for too long. The pause was enough of an answer. I don't know, she whispered. There it was. The truth. Not cruel. Not shouted. Just honest. And maybe that's what hurt the most. That she wasn't leaving out of rage or passion, but because she didn't know how to stay. We talked that night. Really talked. No accusations. No trying to fix it. We talked like two people who had once been everything to each other, now gently letting go. She admitted that the freedom she thought she needed wasn't as satisfying as she'd imagined. That being alone didn't give her answers. It only echoed her doubts louder. But I also admitted something. That while she was finding herself, I had started finding someone else too. Someone I hadn't met yet, but who lived in the version of me that was no longer waiting. Because the truth is, I had already grieved the loss. Quietly, in stages. I had stood in front of the mirror wondering what life would look like without her. I had rewritten my will, yes, but more than that, I had rewritten my sense of who I was. Not a husband, not a partner, just a man. A man who once loved deeply and was now learning how to love himself again. The divorce wasn't dramatic. It wasn't bitter. She cried the day she moved out, and I hugged her like I meant it. Because I did. I still loved her. Just not in the way that could hold a future. I didn't ask for anything. Neither did she. We kept it simple. She left the ring on the counter that morning. The same spot she'd placed it the first time. Only this time, there was no note underneath. Just silence. Understanding. And me, standing there, watching her walk away for real. Months passed. The house grew quieter, but not lonelier. I started cooking again, playing guitar in the evenings. I reached out to old friends I hadn't seen in years. I took a solo trip up north, something I'd always talked about but never dared to do. And one rainy Sunday morning, I found the ring again, tucked in a drawer I rarely opened. Still gleaming, still whole. I didn't throw it away. I didn't sell it. I just held it in my hand for a while, thinking about how something so small could carry so much history. Then I put it back, not out of regret, not out of sentiment, but because that ring belonged to a version of me that no longer existed. Sometimes people leave loudly, with slammed doors and final words. But sometimes they take off a ring, whisper they need to feel free, and expect you to wait while they find themselves. And sometimes we wait. But other times, we take off their name from our will and learn how to write a new one. One that doesn't start with we, but ends with me.